Welcome to my podcast, You Are More. I'm your host, Amy, and I'm really excited to bring a really special guest today to the podcast. I know you're going to love it, but let me set the backstage. So I have with me a bright, talented, young woman, 24 years old, right?
Yep.
And just like packed with power and potential and talent and giftings. And I met with her last week and I sat there listening to her and I was, wow, she's something special. And so I thought after our conversations that it could be so helpful because she's walked through a lot. So just the backstory is her dad, I met him. Guys, this was crazy. When God wants to get you somewhere, he's going to make sure you get somewhere. Okay. So backstory, I'm 20 years old, 21, 22, maybe 21. And I just moved back to the area. I'm living with my parents. I'm getting ready to sell real estate. And all of a sudden I wake up in the middle of the night with the most horrific toothache. My whole entire body, it's like my nerves are exposed. My whole entire body is like on fire. It's like, oh my God. So I call the dentist office, which, I don't love to go to the dentist. So like, this is a big thing that I would do this with. That's how bad it was. Okay. So I called there and my normal dentist wasn't in. And so I get to the dentist office and I see this guy and he's like, hey, I'm Charlie, Dr. Gessner. And literally, I'm like, yeah, you look familiar to me. And he goes, oh, yeah, I go to the church you go to, which at the time was Heartland Vineyard. Well, it still is. And I said, huh. So he's in my mouth checking things out. And he's like, I don't really see anything. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this is so strange. It's all gone. All the pain is gone. That is so weird. And I said, hey, I have a question for you. And this is 3:00 in the morning, guys. I go, I have a question for you. Do you know anything about the Holy Spirit? I said, because I've been like living this life and I've been like doing I went to a Christian school. I was in Orange City and Northwestern College and it was really great, but it just felt spiritually like it was full of right, but it was spiritually dead. Like it didn't feel alive to me. And he's like, actually, I do. I sat there talking to him from 3:00 in the morning till like 7 a.m. Guys, he changed my world and played a big impact in my whole entire world, like in that chapter where I was building a business, starting and just kind of walking and just kind of teaching me how to like walk in purpose. So when I found out a couple of years ago, or last year, Lydia reached out to me about an organization she's involved with, and we didn't connect. A couple of weeks ago, we connected, and I'm like, wow. So I'm going to let her take it from there and share her story. So Lydia, welcome. I'm excited to have you. Give me a little backdrop on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you already talked a little bit about my dad. So that's kind of where our connection comes from. So I'm actually an only child. I grew up in New Hampton, which is about 45 minutes north of here. And so it's just was my mom and my dad and I, and they were both kind of transplants. My dad was originally working as a dentist in Waterloo, not, and then he bought a friend's practice in Calhar. So my parents moved to New Hampton. My mom's like a Chicago girl. And so both kind of ended up in this small town, which is where I was raised. And I really just had kind of I don't know, more of an old fashioned growing up. My parents are older. I was very much like a miracle child. I was a rainbow baby. They've been miscarriages before me. And so my mom had me much older than most people have children. And so, yeah, it was just a miracle kind of at the end of that. And so I grew up in a very loving home, but strong Christians. And so faith was very central to our life. I grew up in a neighborhood kind of full of kids. And so had a lot of opportunities to not be just like the introverted only child. Everyone's always surprised to hear that I'm an only child because I'm pretty social. So thankful for those kids. But yeah, so just kind of had a very idealistic growing up years. Not that there were hard things and things like that, but yeah, really experienced from a young age. I came to know Jesus actually when I was just a month shy of turning 3, which is pretty young.
Yeah.
And so my mom was kind of like, are you sure that you like understand, what I have explained? But basically we were watching a televised funeral of a former president. And she was kind of like, I'm like, hey, why is everybody crying? Like, what's going on? Like, I'm like really understand what a funeral is. And so she kind of explains, well, this man passed away, but he knew Jesus, so he's going to be in heaven again someday. And I was like, I want to know Jesus. I want to go to heaven. And so it's very ironic when you think of the rest of my story that I came to know Jesus at a funeral. So she kind of, encouraged me right there to know what it meant to know the gospel and kind of went over it with me. And said that I got it. And so I've really known Jesus for over 20 years of my life, which is not something many 24-year-olds can say. And I'm very blessed and very grateful for that. So yeah, that was a lot of kind of what my growing up was. My dad was, a dentist and Calmer. And so, and then my mom stayed at home and was just incredible and is an incredible host and hostess. And, was always kind of hosting people at our home. And that was what really made, we didn't have any family in the area because my parents were transplants. And so that is where kind of a lot of our family connections came from, was through church and school and neighborhood and having all these people over that have become like family. And then as we entered into some more difficult seasons in my family's life, really became kind of our support system. So
So
yeah,
tell us about that season.
yeah. So when I was 11, my dad started getting sick. And we weren't sure what it was at first. When I was 12, he was diagnosed with cancer. And so, yeah, it was just a very kind of sudden but very difficult season. And he was sick for 2 years. So throughout my time in middle school. And that was just, my family, like I said, strong Christians, had a strong faith, and we're believing they can heal. Like there was no doubt in our mind, truly. And my dad, my mom, and I are extended family, friends, church community. We were just kind of rallied. We're like, I'm a 13-year-old, just like praying and believing that my dad's going to be healed of cancer. And there seriously was no doubt in my mind. I remember thinking maybe once that he could die. And we even had been told that at a certain point by doctors. And my dad was just the kind to, you knew him, and he was the kind who very much walked in peace. And if he said he was going to be okay, it was going to be okay. It was. And so it was throughout that time, he was very steady, like, no, like, it's going to be okay. And I know it was incredibly difficult for him and very difficult for us to watch him. There's truly no way that I can describe what it's like to watch a parent who's cared for you go downhill and decline, and you're caring for that and helping them, and just see your mom go through that. And it's something just, I hate that I have friends and family who has gone through that, because I would never wish it on anyone else.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then ultimately when I was 14, he passed away from cancer. And that was just, we were believing up until his last breath. Doctors were kind of to a point where they're like, there's nothing more we can do. And we're like, okay, like that's where Jesus takes over. That's where he does his best work. And then he took his last breath. And it was like,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Wow.
yeah,
That leaves you spinning.
it does. It was earth shattering in many ways. So
Yeah. Earth shattering. So you're 14 years old. You're living in a small town. How do you walk through that?
it was, I'm just going to say that God was so faithful in the midst of that, even though it was definitely a season how I think my mom and I were very deeply questioning, not necessarily our faith, but we really have struggled with the love of God that would allow, my dad to go through chemo and go through these treatments, all this stuff for 2 years. I think there was a part of us where like he could have been killed in a car accident. We could have had that, wonderful family life up until the day that he died.
Yeah.
If he was going to end up passing away anyways, why all the suffering for him, for us? Why did he pass away? What did God heal him? We believed, we, thought that we had gotten confirmation of that, and that's, what the Bible says, right? Is that God heals. And so kind of wrestling with that dichotomy of this is what I believe about God, what I believe to be true, and this is what I'm seeing in my life and my circumstances. And I think it was a lot of heavy things to be wrestling with at 14 years old. And I don't think I know I didn't process all of it right away, which was a gift in many ways. And I think too, we also, I feel guilty about it in the moment, but later this is actually quite a common thing with grief, is when you're used to caring for someone for so long, there could be kind of a sense of relief and freedom. Like my mom, I could finally go visit family and go shopping, do some of the things that I missed out on, and we missed out on as a family because my dad had been sick and, as he got worse. So I think there was some of that buffered a little bit of the grief right away. But yeah, I went to a small private Catholic school, and they were very supportive. My classmates were also very silent, and that was really difficult. So we actually didn't tell people that he was sick, because small town, we didn't want to deal with some of the gossip and things like that. My parents wanted like to be as normal for me as possible. That, was a decision that I think we kind of back off. Wasn't the right decision on that. It made it really difficult to kind of be vulnerable with people. But then also I was, as after he passed away, I'm like, we can't hide that. So I kind of came to school going with, okay, like, here's all the sympathy I've been waiting for 2 years. Like, I need some kind of love right now. And it was just crickets. And I think that was just almost more difficult than the loss itself.
Yeah.
And so it's created in me a passion for like, how do we make grief not taboo? Because it's so isolated.
Do you know what? I was just sitting here thinking, like when you're talking about the disillusionment and the loving God and the God that heals and all the questions. I mean, I don't care what age you are, you've questioned. If you're honest,
Yeah.
if you're honest, you've walked through things that have caused you to question.
Yeah.
And I think it's so good to question,
Oh, yeah.
right? It's good to question. It's good to have I'm angry today.
Yes.
I'm frustrated. I feel disappointed today. Like all of that, if you never let those emotions out, if you never acknowledge that, again, it makes your faith like feel insincere.
Yeah.
Like it's just Pollyanna stuffed in a box, like not real. And when I listen to Lydia, I mean, you can hear it, like what she's walked through. And when you note that, okay, no one said anything. I've sat with so many people over the last, I don't know, 6 months that have told me that that was their greatest pain point. Is people would dodge them in the grocery store, at Target, at the mall. They wouldn't say anything to them. Like everyone showed up at the funeral and walked out the door, and then life continued on for them, and their world was literally cracked wide open.
Hmm. Yeah. I had a mentor in college. He talked a lot about the first responders, that there's a lot of people who are really good at the first responders, that bring over meals and a ton of that right away. And then the weeks fade. And that's actually when grief gets harder because the shock wears off and it's like real that they're not going to walk back to the door. And then you're like very isolated because everyone else has moved on to the next first responders. Yeah. The next people who have lost. And you need those people in your corner who are going to be the long term, who are going to say, hey, we're going to show up. My mom and I now try to do like stuff at Christmas for somebody's first Christmas, even if they lost in like July, or, writing a card and delaying, right? Because how much you get kind of the flood at the beginning. And then when it's really hard, it's just not always there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're exactly right.
I think that's such a key, guys, when you're out this world to make a difference, to actually, people like to talk about their loved ones.
Yeah.
They like to talk about the person that's in heaven. It gives them joy to have them be remembered.
Yeah.
Right. And it's healing.
Yes.
So I think so many times people get like nervous. They don't want to bring it up. Oh, you don't want to ruin your day, when actually it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So take note, ask the question, bring it up, acknowledge it.
Yes.
Right. Number two, tell me how the process worked for you and your mom.
Yeah. I think we were, because we kind of been each other's support system. And I'm not trying to say that we don't have a wonderful extended family or, great family friends and things like that. So we did have people who really sincerely were walking alongside of us in powerful ways. But there was a lot that just came down to like the two of us. And, we knew what it was like in those moments to walk through it and see what we had seen, the trauma we'd experienced. And so there was no one else who really could have gotten that.
Yeah.
And so we were pretty honest with each other of like, hey, I'm having a hard day. And we always kind of say, thankfully, we never were really having a hard day at the same time. So you could always have one person who was kind of stable and the other person kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
And so I think it was huge for me to hear my mom, who walked with Jesus, almost her whole life, to say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And I believe in God, or I trust him. And like, yet I will praise him. Like, we lifted our hands at his funeral and said, we're not going to let him. Like, that's the only way he wins, is if we give up and like walk away. And like you said, like, God wants our anger and our feelings. Like, I would say he'd rather hear you screaming it into his face than see your back as you walk away.
Yeah.
Like, and you
say that again, slower.
Yeah. He would rather hear you and see you screaming at his face than see your back as you walk away.
That's really good.
Yeah. And I sincerely believe that. I mean, you think of all the relationships in our lives, like, how many people would we say that about, like whether it's a spouse or a friend or a, parent, you'd much rather have them tell you their full feelings than just walk out of your life.
Yeah.
And so if we're created in the image of God, why would we not think that he's that way? So, yeah. But
I was driving down the road today and like, well, God, nothing's hidden from you. You know my downcast of my uprising, my city, you're acquainted with all my ways.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm a little frustrated about a couple things. And I literally am driving down the road and I'm like, so I really need to see your hand moving. couple different directions, or you need to change my heart about it. Like that's an option too.
Yeah.
Right. But like, let's have honest, real communication because there's no life in being religious.
No.
There's no life in not knowing that you have a living, active God.
Yeah.
Who longs to be part of your world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, so I think that it's even just as you and your mom talked about how you walk through those pain points and all of that. Guys, I'm going to give you the heads up. There's a book coming out of this, right? And I think it's going to be an incredible book. But tell me this: that you didn't just get hit with that.
No. Yeah.
It was kind of a
Delusion.
you kind of lived in a chapel.
Yeah.
And a lot of loss.
Yeah. So when I was 11 years old to when I was 23 years old, I lost 13 people and 2 pets,
Wow.
2 dogs. So it has been, it's been family, friends, classmate, middle school mentor, people I grew up with. It's been, college teammate, surrogate grandparents, people who walked with us like grandparents when I didn't have grandparents close by, an uncle, my grandma, grandpa, my dad. Like it's been a lot.
Yeah.
And, obviously life has a lot of ups and downs beyond that. And so it's really been a lot of are really heavily in college and in middle school. Uh, and so high school, a little bit less. But yeah, so there was it wasn't just like one every year. It was like concentrated in some seasons, which was really hard.
Yeah.
Especially in college. That was because you're away from you're building a new support system, right? Which offered some really beautiful moments of like, okay, like you can't just like pretend to hide all your feelings when you're like losing people every year of college. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta get real with people, otherwise you're gonna go under. And
Yeah.
that was kind of where the Lord like, yeah, I know in middle school it kind of worked for you to just like be with your family and your people and not open up to other people as much. But now you gotta figure out this vulnerability thing because this is what I made you for.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Just listening to you with the authenticity that's there.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about the other day, people identify with your struggle.
Yeah.
Like they identify and they connect with it. And the fact that you make it, and the fact that you're walking with joy again.
Yeah.
You have a hope in life.
Yeah.
Right. You have a bright future ahead of you that you're aware of. That you know deep on the inside. Oh, if you can walk through this and that and the other thing, oh, so can I. If you can get through that, so can I. It gives people the ability to have that far belief.
Yes.
When they can't get their head off the pillow.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, Lydia, she got through this.
Yeah.
Oh, she can do this. I can do it. It's possible for me too.
Yeah.
I think so many people, like when we have loss. And I'm so grateful. My parents are still alive and I'm grateful they're strong and healthy and all that. But I've lost some really dear people.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of them, my really dear friend, Ruthanne, she died 6 months ago today. And today I woke up in the middle of the night and I literally got up there and started, sounds crazy, but I'm sitting there. I went to my phone. I got all the videos of her playing the piano and us singing on her piano together. And I listened to different videos of her last night. This is crazy, guys. From like 1:30 in the morning until almost 4 o'clock. And I just went through teaching, like stuff that she taught me, my notes. I was reading. I was thankful that she'd written so many books. I'm flipping through her books. I could hear her voice through the books. I sat there watching these videos. And I was like, man, I really missed her. Right? She was so rare. And I'm watching that. And I look up, and as much as my heart is like, man, I really miss her, I had the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I love seeing her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I just think that if anyone talks to me about anything, yeah. And I always remember. I honor her life and I honor the relationship that it was. That's,
Yeah.
right. I think so much in life. Life is busy.
Yeah.
It has a lot of complication to it. And so many times people have experienced massive loss and we just move right past it.
Yeah.
While they stand in the ashes of their life. And to me, like, I always like my focus is I don't always hit the mark, but for any of my clients that have lost spouses and stuff throughout the year, I'm always sensitive about those holidays. Take them something, to show up, just to bring them a pie, to do something.
Yeah.
Because I recognize, I don't know why I do. Like, I just know those are me really painful moments. And a lot of times people have moved out at that point, and there's nothing that leaves an impact or a help like showing up at those times.
Yeah.
Right. And just remembering it. So, like, when I think about this world, I'm like, we can do so much better. And it doesn't take that much effort to just show up for people and be kind.
Yeah.
And be thoughtful and be supportive and help. Literally regulation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, you probably have someone that is locked in your brain, like, oh, she showed up for us, or they showed up for us.
Yeah.
And they probably mean the world to you.
Yes. Yeah. There's been so many of those moments. And I mean, I'm thinking even, it can be like the smallest things, right? Like what you said, like bringing over a pie or something to someone at Christmas, doing gift cards. Like my teachers, the first Christmas after my dad died, they tried to figure it out. Obviously, figured it out. But I went to a small school, all the teachers came together and they did gifts for us that we could open every single day from like December 1st to the 24th. Oh, wow.
And just like little things, like we still have those mugs and we still have those cookie cutters and we still have those cookies. So like all the things that they gave us, and they come out every year. And it's one of those reminders of like, hey, those really difficult moments, like there was somebody there because the holidays are so, like they're still so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you have those things, it's a reminder that you're not forgotten. And I think that's what people often feel like is, if you just forgotten that I had this huge loss back in March and it's December and this is the first time they're not at my table, yet I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's heart wrenching.
Yeah.
When you have those memories that are really closely attached to holidays. So yeah, and the holidays are so painful for so many.
Yeah.
Right. So what are steps or what are keys that maybe you and your mom that you took to walk out of?
Yeah.
And to not stay angry?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard, right? Like grief is a lifelong process. Like it's something that I'm never going to stop grieving my dad. Like he is not going to walk me down the aisle someday. He's not going to be there for my, kids someday. Like those moments are still going to be grief, but it's how long do you let it like control your life?
Right.
Like how long do you let it be the forefront of your mind? And I think that's really hard and it varies by person. I had my mentor in college, had a really wise way of putting it. She talked about how the stages of grief that people often refer to are actually meant for people who have passed away, or not have passed away, but the people who are actively dying. So you go through those stages of grief and you get acceptance. It's like someone who's critically ill. That's when they pass away.
Yeah.
And so for us who, are people who have lost, like those stages are repeating over and over again. Like I didn't truly grieve my dad's death till 5 years later at the end of life. Like it's 48. And I was like, whoa, this trauma is like coming up big time. And it's just, you don't know how your body is so interesting. And I work, with foster care for Cedar Valley Angels. And so we are learning constantly as a staff about what trauma does to your body, things like that. And to me, it's super interesting the point where God meets that, like because He designed our bodies in this way, handle trauma in certain ways. It kind of send us those red flags of like, hey, something isn't right here. You need to go back and look at this and bring it to me.
Yeah.
And so my mom always talks about how God reveals what He wants to heal, which I think has been so beneficial because like there's even things about college and things that I've had to kind of the past year just slow down and say, hey, what I'm bringing all this to you, things I didn't have time to really process, losses that were hard, and just like sit with Him and let Him heal me in the stillness and not the busyness. But yeah, kind of going back to what you were asking, I think when you start to see grief as a beautiful thing instead of a difficult thing is when you're like getting to a point where it's healthier, where you're able to talk about that person and see the beauty of what they gave to you, like with Ruth saying, and still really acknowledge how much is that loss left in your life. Because I think God designed grief as a way for us to, He didn't design it, frankly, actually. I should say that. This was not part of His plan.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big realization for me at college during the season of like awful loss was just that like God grieves with us. And when we grieve, we partner with His heart because He never wanted to look this way. This was never His design.
Yeah.
And so when we partner with him in grief, it can actually bring out so many fruitful and beautiful things. Like, I go to Hope City and Pastor Q was just saying the other day, like, I'm not going to give you anything for your bucket of ashes. Like, I want to, give you a quarter for that. You give that to God and he gives you beauty.
Yeah.
Like that is his currency.
Yeah.
And so when you begin to see that grief is something that you hand over to God and he hands back something even more beautiful than a life without grief could ever hold, then that's when you're starting to get to the point where you're realizing the power that grief can have in a positive way in your life, while also continuing to acknowledge the pain that it.
I have a dear friend, and she's a dear friend of many in this community. Her name's Kathy Young. And she's walked through a lot of grief and lost a son in a motorcycle accident. Uh, Dad, like Mark's Park and stuff. But she loves it when you talk about Mark. But she, we have an agent in my office who lost both of his sons at age 40 to one of them went to high school, died of lung cancer, and the other was a realtor with me. And he had a seizure one night and basically didn't make it through it in the night. And so just a few years apart, they lost both their boys. And they had like a celebration of life about their oldest son. And I remember the atmosphere in that place was so heavy.
Yeah.
Like people were trying to be light about it. They were trying to be comforting to people, but it just felt so heavy and so weighty. And in walks Kathy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like this bright light shows up and she opens her mouth and it's filled with so much grace, so much hope, and so much identification.
Yeah.
Her words weren't empty.
Yeah.
They hit the parents that were suffering.
Yeah.
They landed.
Yeah.
Because it was, I know this.
Yeah.
And while you never want that for anybody, you never want that for your life. I think so much. Like, are you going to get better or are you going to get bitter?
Yeah.
And the temptation to sit on the sidelines and be bitter and treat life as I'm a victim. Why did this happen to us? Like all those thoughts, the enemy loves to plague us with all those things to get us to sit on the sidelines and give up.
Yes.
Did you guys ever experience any of that?
Oh, yeah. I think the victim mindset is very real and I think it's very difficult. And I think especially like the 13th loss was I lost a friend to suicide right before Christmas. And that was just like, I felt like I was in a season that God was healing a lot of those things and kind of getting me to a place where I felt like I was coming out on the other side of a really heavy season. And that, I mean, obviously suicide is out of the blue, but that was just like, oh my gosh, like it felt like a betrayal from God in many ways. And I think I really struggled with the mindset of like, why another loss? Like why? And right for holidays, it was just, she's married, she'd been in the military and it's still really heavy. I'm surprised on that front right now.
Yeah.
And I think that it can be really easy, especially when things hit you really back to back. You can't come up for air. And it's really easy that to let those lives sneak in. And it's like, well, why God would love you to he allow us to happen? And what else is he going to allow? And like all those kinds of things where you're like, I don't have any, it makes you feel like you have no control over your life because things just happen to you. And I think I've absolutely sunk into that. And I still work through some of that and some of the bitterness that when certain things happen, I can still feel that there's a bitterness of like, that God allowed other things to happen before that, that I'm like, okay, this is bringing up things in me that's like more than just this incident or it's bad. This is like deeper. But I think those are the moments that my boyfriend has a really good saying it of like, way to say it, that when you cry, it's like God softening your stone heart.
Yeah.
And like making it more malleable in order for him to, move and be able to move through you. And it softens your heart towards other people. Because like you said with Kathy, like my mom and I have been able to walk alongside people, unimaginable grief. And we always kind of say, as hard as it was that we didn't get the healing, you walk into a room with a healing story, or like, that's great for you. And like, cool, you walk in with like a broken heart and everyone relates that. And, there's been an incredible ministry that my mom has been able to start out of this. She has a coffee club, but there's so many where it's like they're trapped in grief, but they feel safe to go there.
Yeah.
Because it's like they know that she's created a space where even if they don't talk about it, they feel seen and loved because there's other who've understood loss to an incredible degree. And I think when you have those stories, you create space for other people and your life will never be shallow again. Like there's nothing like, there was no part of me that was going after, like, I want to make the most money after college. Like there was none of that. It was,
Yeah.
you realize what life is really about. So you really home on what am I going to do with this life? Yeah. And especially when you friends young.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Yeah.
You speak well beyond your years,
Thank you.
right?
Scott.
It is, but I can tell you walk through the fire
Yeah.
and you carry that. Like you walk through it. But what I love is that you're on mission on purpose to light other people's path.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only way out of any difficulty or any trial or any setback or any struggle
Yeah.
is to light someone else's path.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the only way I've known that.
And you do that so well.
It's the only way I know out of anything. Like if your business isn't in a good spot, go help somebody else's business. If your health is off, go pray for somebody else. If your family is complete dysfunction, go serve some family.
Yeah.
I just think the only way out to truly heal is to serve and to give to other human beings.
Mm.
And I can't tell you over the years how many days I've been like, man, I don't even feel like getting up today.
Yeah.
We've all felt that. We've all had experienced things. Let's just be real, right? Like, man, I don't want to do this, or I don't know how I'll make it through this. And I just think to myself, who's in a worse spot than me? You don't have to think very far.
Yeah.
And I wake up every day conscious of that.
Yeah.
Like, who do I need to meet and minister to today? Who do I need to be a blessing to today? Who do I need to give hope to today?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what fills my cup, because life can be completely boring and mundane and purposeless.
Yeah.
If it's not about other people. And people think that if they live their life and consume it upon themselves. And it's such a empty, lonely life.
Yeah.
And the goal is to meet someone in the trenches and bring light.
Yes. Yes.
And you can't really bring light, unfortunately, if there's not some identification with struggle.
Yeah. Unless you've already been in the trenches.
Yeah. And the struggle might be different, but the impact might be the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, loss of a business, loss of a family, loss of like,
Grief transcends.
grief transcends just a person.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that we've seen that so much, even with all the transitions in society. Like we're living in a world that is really different right now.
Yeah.
And I think that kindness and being the light goes farther than it's ever gone.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that people are desperate for hope. So when did you start to feel a breakthrough? Like, oh, you can hope again. Oh, you can have joy. Oh, you can laugh.
Yeah.
And not feel guilty.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I feel like it was such a gift that never went away. Like even when he was sick, I feel like there was just, I remember a moment. I was an English major, so this is how you know it was God. So I was sitting in math class. Everyone around me would be like, okay, you shouldn't have joy there. But I was in middle school math class and the joy of the Lord just hit me. And it's like, I remember it so fondly. I'm like, I just wanted to laugh or it was just so powerful. And of course you're in the middle class, you can't, but I just knew it was God. And I think there were so many instances in his sickness, in the hospital, even after he died and even in the midst of grappling with the grief we have the past decade or so, that there's still so much laughter. And I think that's the only way you get through it. In a lot of ways, like my mom and I always say, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And you have to do both. And you got to both grieve well. Yeah. I think that's where people get lost in one or the other, is that they laugh to cover up the pain and then never acknowledge the pain.
Yeah.
Or they cry so much that they forget that life could be wonderful and they need to laugh. And I think that it's truly, that was what God told us actually after my dad passed away, is that we still have a testimony. And no, it wasn't what we wanted, but it's a testimony of joy. It's pain. And I think that's been so evidently not from me, because truly, I mean, in the moments that I can stop and grapple with the depth of loss that we've experienced, it makes me want to crumble, if not for God. And I think that that's how you know that God exists in those moments, is when you can laugh and find joy and find meaning, find purpose in the midst of the really difficult things. So, yeah.
Lydia, I'm so excited about your future. I'm so excited about your future impact. I think we all need to hear from you, but I think your generation, I think you're just going to have such a voice. They need to hear it. There's so much suicide. There's so much death. There's so much discouragement and darkness. And the fact that you have a testimony of hope.
Yeah.
And when I look at you, your countenance isn't gloomy and sad. You know what I mean? You have a bright smile. You have bright eyes, right? Like you're full of life, even though you've walked through hell.
Yeah.
So if someone's in the midst of the darkest days of their life, give me a couple keys you think would help that you found helpful? Toolbox. Well, a tool out of your toolbox. Yeah. I'm always loving that. I like tool.
I love that.
What's my toolbox?
I always say that too. I love that. Yeah, I think first of all, you have to have toolbox. I think that if you don't have a toolbox, that's probably a bad sign. I go to counseling. I'm a runner. I think they're a writer. There's so many things that I'm very grateful for that I already had available to, even when my dad was sick, that I was already loved running. I already loved writing. I already loved talking, verbal processes. But there's things like that if you already have those, that was such a gift, even though I wouldn't have said, oh, that's like a coping mechanism for me at the time. Yeah, it was. And so I think recognizing those things has been huge for me and huge to help other people because grief is really impractical, right? It's really big. It feels really hard, feels really massive. And if you can make it so that you know what tools you have on those really hard days, you're going to know. And so you just have to be real that you're going to need them. You're going to need those people you can call. You're going to need that journal that you can write in. And, everybody's processes are different. Maybe it's going out and playing golf, being in nature, maybe you're a photographer, just recognizing those things that not necessarily, for seasons, they're coping mechanisms, but I'd rather call them healing mechanisms. Yeah. So I think you got to find a way that really helps you heal and take care of yourself in the midst of grief because it's incredibly draining. So yeah, that aside, some of mine, some of the things I just listed, I think that I have really found my mom gave me really powerful advice and I was taking a really hard class my senior year. And she was like, just take it a day at a time. Because I started the second semester of it. And I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. And she's like, just one day at a time. And it's amazing what you can accomplish and you just take life one day at a time. And I think that's where we get so lost. And that's where the suicidal thoughts frankly come, is when you feel like you see the future as this big overwhelming moment that you don't know how we're going to get through. And frankly, sometimes it's not even a day. Sometimes it's an hour. And I think that I experienced grief like I never had when I lost my friend to suicide. And that was some of the lowest moments of my life. Yeah. And I mean, I told you about this when we were at coffee that I was sitting there on Christmas Eve and I was like curled up on my couch and I was just praying to go to sleep because I just wanted to get away from the pain. And finally, I wasn't able to sleep and I just felt like the crushing weight kind of everything walked through. And God was like, you have to get up. Like, you have to get up. So I was like, what do I do? Like in those moments, like it's not your bank account. It's not your car in the driveway. It's not even your, people that care for you in those moments. Like they're not always going to be there in those moments. And so who is the name that you're going to call out in the most dark moments of your life? And so I went upstairs. I was like walking back and forth across the hallway that my dad used to pray, walking back and forth before you go to work. My mom, like my whole childhood. And I just started walking. And I was just, all I could say was the name of Jesus. Yeah. And that was it because I had no other words to pray. And it was like slowly, and there wasn't like this giant bright light or something magical and the pain went away. Like it just slowly was like the courage to keep going and to get other stuff. Yeah. And I think that was what God was shining that season. It's like, it makes me tear up. It was so hard. And he's like, you just have to take it a day at a time. And I think that's what you have to do. It's just, he goes, just give him one more day. Yeah. And you'll be amazed if you look back and you give him one more day. Yeah. How many days he'll get you through. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. I shared with you that my dear friend Ruthann lost her husband of 60 years. Yeah. Like a decade ago, right? She just passed 6 months ago. So she lived 10 years about it. And when he died, they were like joined at the hip in all things. Yeah. Like they were just so connected and everything. Yeah. And made it for life, so to speak. But literally, she said, God, you have to take me too. Yeah.
I can't handle the pain.
Yeah.
I can't handle any of it. You've got to just take me home.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this.
Yeah.
And she said, I remember laying on my couch, just not knowing how to ever move forward.
Yeah.
And he told me to get up off the couch and to take one step, and that he would be in my next step.
Yeah.
And she goes, so literally I got up on off my couch.
Yeah.
It took so much energy to get off the couch. I was so weary and drained and hopeless feeling.
Yeah.
And I stood up and I just took a step.
Yeah.
And she goes, something hit me. And a big thing of grief left me.
Yes.
She goes, I could bear it.
Yeah.
And she said, and I had a divine contentment come upon me. She goes, that I had never, ever, until her last few months before she went to see Jesus, did she actually grieve that again. I was so anxious and so lonely for her husband. But before that, when she was so on purpose still,
Yeah.
she said, I had this contentment that was so supernatural.
Wow.
She said, I could have piled up in a heap and done nothing the rest of my life and just died.
Wow.
But I'm like, God, as long as I have breath in my body, I have a purpose.
Yeah.
Bring everybody around that has need of anything and let me serve them well.
Yeah.
And she lived her life to the very end, very purpose filled. I mean, every day, I'll never forget this. I watched her in so many hospital situations over the last year and a half, and not ideal situations, right? And in pain, and like just all the things. And every time they would walk in and they would be trying to find the vein and had to find it or whatever, like all the things.
Yeah.
And she would always say to me, honey, I'm so glad you came to work today. God knew I needed you.
Yeah.
She would say that to every person that would come home there. If they came in foul, it was like, I'm so thankful you came to work today. I needed you.
Yeah.
Wow. And I have literally, I watched her do that in so many situations.
Yeah.
Even when she was at Friendship Village and in Wellspring, the nursing staff,
Wow.
every time they'd walk in, she'd go, oh, I'm so happy to see you. I needed to see you today. Like just being the light on those little things makes such a huge impact.
Yeah.
It taught me so much watching her do that.
Yeah.
In situations where you would lose your patience, be frustrated, like, come on, what the heck? No, that was not her response.
Wow.
And I'm like, Christ in me,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, like literally. And she would say to me all the time, "You Christ in me, the whole glory.
Yeah.
Christ in you, that changes everything."
Yeah.
So everywhere you go, you bring him with you.
Yeah.
Every room you walk into, every atmosphere you go into,
Yeah.
you carry a change factor, right?
Yeah.
You can shift atmospheres.
Yeah.
And so every time she would do that, she really taught me to, like over the last 5 years, to be really focused on be intentional about being the light, be intentional about shifting atmospheres that you walk into,
Yeah.
be intentional about seeing people.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I feel like you do a really good job with that. And I hardly know you. Yet I feel like I really know you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Same.
So it's just, I don't know if anyone's excited about that book coming out. I'll have her back on when it actually gets published and released and all. But that she and her mom are working on it. And I think it's such a now word of walking through. And I appreciate so much your vulnerability, your honesty, and just the truth that you spoke.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to say?
I think you nailed it. And just what Ruth Ann would say, there was a quote that my mom and I really, somebody else had told it to us after we'd lost my dad, and just that there's still life to live and love to give.
Life to live and
There's still life to live and love to give. And it's happening with the end of that. So the T, we, it's fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's still more in store.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, remember this. You're on the search for a distinct purpose, a specific purpose, so unique to you alone that the world will be missing something if you don't fulfill your purpose. So know this, you truly are more. Be blessed.